Okay, we are live with another happiness class. We're going to be talking about how to buy happiness. I'm really happy to have Dana here. I keep forgetting how to say your name. Sorry, Dana or Dana?
Oh, it's easy. Just think of the name David and say it the same way you would say David. David, Dana.
Dana.
Dave, Dana.
Dana.
Yeah.
Dana. All
Dave,
right, cool.
Dane, Dana. Yes.
Cool. So
Yeah.
I'm really pleased to have Dana here because she's part of this small Quran class that we have for non-Muslims or people who call themselves sort of progressive Muslims or something. Um, and I really enjoy being part of that because I feel like we people try to understand the Quran other than normally when I debate people there's like a zero trying to understand the Quran. So it's a really nice group that I really enjoy being part of, and Dana is the second person to join from that group, so thank you very much for being here, Dana. um,
Mm.
so, very quickly, what do I do here? I do happiness classes based on Islamic teachings, mainly for Westerners and non Muslims. It might sound really weird. Why would I not do it for Muslims? Because I think a lot of Muslims are stuck in a rut with their ideas, their fixed ideas. And I think people in the West are really suffering from so many problems that can easily be solved using Islamic principles that have been tried and tested over centuries and even millennia. So, with that introduction, I'm a Muslim. Would you like to say something about yourself, Dana? How would you, a brief introduction about yourself?
Well, first, I'd like to make sure I understood what you were saying at the opening. Um, did I understand you to be saying that there's so many problems in the West that could easily be solved by Islam? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
that's what I was saying. Islamic principles. Yeah.
Well, I live in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I live in Kuwait. It's a country where Islam is the official religion. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, constitutionally, uh, it refers to Sharia law, etc.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've lived in several places in the Middle East. Um, I think it's more accurate to say that the humankind has problems
Yeah.
which submission to God
Hmm.
will always solve. Yep.
Sure, I agree. Yeah. So even though, sure, that's right. But I find generally in countries where they try to have some idea of God or an awareness of God brings people closer and enables so many other things to cascade from that. For example, people have less depression levels. They contemplate God more often, even though it's far from perfect. I totally agree. We talk about this a lot in our classes that a lot of Muslims don't really follow Islam very well. Um, and things like marriage. Why is it that Muslims, despite being far from perfect, seem to be having a lot of the most long-lasting marriages and most children? You can see that even in the West, a lot of London is being taken over or predicted to be 50%. So I think that I heard a statistic yesterday that by 2050, half of England will be either black or Muslim. And that's just because of the massive population implosion of the native society, which is becoming godless, whereas Muslims, despite being far from perfect, I've been even persecuted by Muslims in England. Um, but despite that, they had that little belief in God has a massive impact on so many things. How do you feel about that? I brought Dana on because I know she's got a lot of what's the word, feisty, even in in our little Quran classes. So feel free to disagree. But do you feel like having some belief in God, some awareness of God, has a massive impact on the your day-to-day life, your marriage and your attachment to material things and things like that? What do you think about that?
Well, absolutely. there's absolutely no doubt that the degree of your relationship with God, in my opinion, the
Yeah.
degree of your relationship with God gives you a purpose in life, gives you a grounding, gives you a foundation. But let's unpack the idea that Muslim societies have more God awareness than secular societies. So I live in a so-called Muslim society where the
Mm.
divorce rate is extremely high.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah, on a par with US, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So here's a country that is officially Muslim and where we hear the call to prayer
Mm.
adhan 5 times a day. And we see people going to the prayer room uh, during office hours. And we see all the show of Muslim
Mm.
ritual. Okay. And we see men who wear the short tastasha and the long beard to show off that they're more religious. And
Mm.
we have lots and lots and lots of show of religiosity, Islam style, in
Yeah.
Kuwait. Now, is it really more moral, or is it a more closed society where the problems are hidden?
Mm.
I've been in a position to know what's really going on in Kuwait, in this extremely officially Muslim society.
Mm.
My husband, for example, is Kuwaiti, born and bred, second generation Kuwait police.
Mm-hmm.
Um, served his country as a police officer more than 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, was in the Kuwaiti resistance against the Iraqi invasion and occupation. His life at risk every
Mm-hmm.
single day for all of that occupation, and so on and so on. A very good
Yeah.
man, very much submitted to God. He's stateless.
Mm.
He's stateless. He has no citizenship in any country in the world,
Wow.
less so than his own country.
Yeah.
If he immigrates to America, he will have more rights than what he has in his home of birth, his country of birth.
Mm.
So I would really challenge the concept that, oh, Western people are so messed up. We really need to share the good news of Islam with them. I would
Sure.
suggest
Okay.
it's far more correct to say, wherever God leads us,
Mm.
wherever God leads us to share the good news of God's love, um, we we have a mandate, we have a purpose to share the beauty, the joy, and the fulfillment that comes from being submitted to God, having a real life relationship with God. That's, I wish that
Sure.
I could say, oh, here's a society over here that's so religious and so godly. Americans,
Mm.
American Christians
Do
think that
you think
America is a
I
Christian
I'm
country and far
intrigued.
more godly than other countries.
I'm intrigued by. I do think where I am in Jordan um, has been spared having too much money, oil money, which maybe that's really
Can't hear
corrupt.
you too well. Can you
Oh,
speak really
you can't hear
loudly?
me?
Sorry
Oh,
about my
okay.
technical problems.
That's fine. I feel like I'm intrigued. Before we go into I suppose the main topic is money. This was very interesting. That Jordan, where I am, never had any oil money, and
Never
maybe
had a
oil money, oil like money from
right.
oil. So
And in fact, they
maybe
wouldn't exist were it not for outside humanitarian aid.
yeah, that's right. It's got one of
Yeah.
the it's most amount of money in the world fed to it for interesting political reasons we won't go into right now. But I think that somehow helps it to be more genuine because I do feel I don't know maybe it does have somewhat I'm not sure about the divorce rate, but I do feel like people are more connected here and very family orientated here Can you hear me? Oh, poor thing. So you can't hear
It's
me
all
very
right.
well.
Just
Yeah.
go on
Okay.
talking, and
Yeah.
when I'm
No,
talking, I'll hold the phone away from my ear.
Sure. Yeah. I just feel like it does seem to be very family orientated. People are very close to each other. And I do think that's got to be something to do with Islamic values, or at least godly values. What do you think?
And how many years have you lived in U.S.?
Oh, none. What do you mean? The
Oh,
US? I,
so how do you get your impressions of U.S.?
everywhere in the West has got very soaring depression, uh, rates. Or I mean, these are well known by psychologists. So the rate at which people are taking antidepressants is going up really quickly. Suicide is going up all over the West statistically. So yeah, there's plenty of evidence to say that people are getting pretty unhappy despite having more money.
And here in the Middle East, mental
Mm,
health is a subject of shame, and so it's
mm.
completely hidden. So one thing we have to think about when we compare
Oh, your sound died. How did the sound die? I can't hear you. Okay. Why is it so low? Maybe let me check my sound levels. So audio testing is nice and high. Okay. Maybe if I remove that one. Sorry, Dane, I can't hear you at the moment.
okay,
Oh no, I can hear you now. I can hear you. I think maybe something
okay,
got loose. So sorry, say again. So you're saying in
okay.
Kuwait, depression is
Or in the
yeah,
whole of the Middle East,
yeah,
mental health is a shame. It's similar to what it was in U.S. when I was growing up, let's say in the 50s, 60s, 70s. You
mm-hmm,
don't talk about it. You don't deal with it. You don't go to a psychiatrist. I could refer to one of the most talented psychiatrists in the region. He's
yeah.
the creator.
Uh-oh, sound again gone. I don't know why it keeps going. I can't hear you, Dana. Oh, okay. Let me remove this other one as well. Add to stage. Is there remove? I don't want to kick from studio. That would probably get the wrong effect. Hopefully, it should be back in a second. What I really wanted to do is jump into discussing this verse of the Quran, but we'll see. But hopefully, when we have Dana back in a second, because what we do in the Quran class, which is really something I really enjoy, is really contemplate. Oh, there we go. Here we go. So, Dana, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Can
Jane.
you hear
So
me?
I'm fine. So let's agree on the idea that wherever we are for now, let's just agree on this, that um, a belief in God is very powerful for your um, uh, your happiness. Let's just say, in short. Yeah, your submission, awareness of God, and therefore submission to, and afterwards, submission to God is a very powerful way of directing your life, finding meaning in your life, and psychologists say meaning is essential to happiness. So, do we agree on that much so far? It's good that I like your pushback, and maybe it's good, but do you agree on that much? That submission to God wherever you are, let's just say for now, is very powerful for enhancing your happiness.
Absolutely. I think that's what I've been saying over and over again is that I would recommend to avoid the idea that, oh, over here is a Muslim country and they've got it way better and all their social problems are solved and human rights is going great and, like that.
Yeah, sure.
For Muslim people to promote Islam as a solution to society is a really good idea in every country of the world. Every country of the world. And it could be said that it is much needed in an officially Muslim country as in an officially Christian country, of which there are several in Europe, as in an officially secular country where you have complete freedom of religion. So, it's all about God, not about this culture is better than that culture.
Sure. Okay, so now what I want to do is move on to this verse of the Quran, but maybe it might not show so easily. I don't know if you can see it on your computer or anything.
Yes, I can see it.
Oh, you can. Great. Fantastic. Yes. Okay. So what I really enjoy doing in the Quran class, and maybe we'll try to do it here, is each of us give our own reflections on this particular verse of the Quran. I'm going to briefly, I don't want to kind of lead too much yet. I want to kind of give my rough idea of the value of what it says. So I'll read it first. So it says, so fear God as best as you can and listen and obey and spend in his cause. It will be good for yourselves. And whoso is rid of covetousness of his soul, of his own soul, it is they who shall be successful. So as you know, Dana, Dana, sorry, I'm remembering David. Okay. I always count Bismillah as a verse. Thank you. So chapter 64, verse 17. So some people might call it verse 16. Okay. By the way, I always link in the videos this document that I'm showing. For every class, I have a document, and then you can click and see the verse of the Quran in question. So my brief thoughts, okay, to begin with, are essentially, if you want to buy happiness, spend on other people. Be generous. Now, you might not immediately see that from this verse of the Quran, but let's say if God says spend in his cause, God doesn't need money. God always asks you to spend on other people, his creation. So that's that. But then the question might be, why does the verse start with fear God, then listen, then obey, then finally spend in his cause? So any thoughts about, okay, initially, what do you think about the idea of, if you want to buy happiness, start by spending on other people? Any thoughts about that?
When I was 3 years old, the church that I attended with my family had a missionary conference where people came from all over the world together to talk about all the countries of the world. And most of them were medical missionaries who were providing medical assistance to people in countries that had none. On the Sunday night at the end of the conference, a woman spoke that impressed me deeply. It was the first time I'd ever seen a woman in the pulpit of the church. So her message was all about the love of God for all the people of the world. I was deeply moved as a 3-year-old child, and I said, Daddy, wow. I want to meet her. I want to meet her. And I went to her, and my dad took me to her, and she leaned over and became very close to me and listened to me. And I said, I want to be a worker for God. I
Mm,
want to give my life to God, to show people the love of God all over the world.
mm,
And I would say that, uh, especially happening at such a young age, at 3 years old,
yeah.
that set the path of my life so that, you know, I went on a journey. I've been on a journey, still on the journey of something so very, very unexpected for a little Southern Baptist girl. That
Mm,
she should end up, or not even end up, she should find herself on a journey that took her to the other side of the world, and where she has had the opportunity to demonstrate the love of God to people who are the outcasts of their society, the stateless people of
mm,
Kuwait. They're all Muslims. They're all born in Kuwait. They're multi generations born in Kuwait. They're multi generations born and living in this region
mm.
before the British established the boundaries of the
Sure. So
modern
I'm gonna.
state of
So
Kuwait.
are you saying when it says spend in his cause, it doesn't necessarily mean spend money. It could be spend your time, because
Right.
I'm trying to
It,
focus
no, it
on
gives. It means
the.
give your
Yeah.
life. Give your life. Give your life.
Yeah.
Invest your whole life. Your life belongs to God. I gave
Yes.
my life to God when I was 3 years old, and I've never stopped that
So you
journey.
can spend different things that you hold dear. Because I can't remember, was it a saying of Prophet Muhammad or a verse of the Quran that you should not give anything. Don't give things of that you don't value yourself, but give things that you value. I don't know if you remember anything like that, but yeah. So
Mhm.
if you value your time, then you give that. You give your precious time and things like that. So I suppose that is a way of um letting go of your dependency on material or physical things, and that I think, continuing on with this verse of the Quran, gets allows you to get rid of your covetousness. So covetousness is a big word for me, but basically I understand it to mean this need to keep collecting things. Do you know what I mean? I need more of this, I need that, whatever. So do you think, let's say, giving in charity, let's say, be it money or giving your time to help the oppressed like you um, do you think that allows you to become free because you realize? I mean, what do you think? What's your experience? Does it free you in any way by giving charity or giving your time?
I don't think of it in terms of what I'm getting out of it in the first place.
Sure.
That comes as a collateral.
Yeah, I love
The
that.
way
That's
I
so
think of
true.
it is
Yeah.
God God speaks, God calls us, and we respond because we
Yeah.
belong to God. He created us, and we respond to His essence, His holiness, His Spirit calling us,
Yeah.
His Spirit
I
living
think that's
in and
such an
through us.
important point. Yeah, I love that, because if you try to achieve happiness directly or selfishly, then it doesn't work. Like if you think you're bargaining with God, that doesn't work either, isn't it? Because you don't know when you're gonna. You don't like. I do think there is a immediate payback, but it's so subtle. But when you're bargaining with God, like I'll do this and then I'll wait for something to come back, you don't know when the big payoff, let's say, will come back. You like, I think generally anybody who, let's say, sacrifices for God probably has lots of experiences that you do get back somehow, but you don't know when. And so I love the thing that you're not bargaining with God. You're just saying, God
Mhm.
tells me to do it, I do it, and then good things happen. Some people call it karma or something, in modern terminology. So yeah, I love that. So, and I can see you nodding in agreement. I want to ask you a question because this is the thing I was excited about doing with you, because this is what we do in our Quran classes. We look at a verse of the Quran and then we kind of analyze it piece by piece. Why do you? So we've already agreed that spending in his cause, in God's cause, enables you to become less dependent on things. Otherwise, you just build up more and more things, and actually become more. The more you depend on money, no, the more you spend money to make yourself happy, the more dependent you become on that. And to break that cycle, you need to give away stuff and stuff like that. So we agree on that much. But my question to you is, why does this verse, or actually, can you break down in your own way, why does it start with, so fear God as best you can and listen and obey? Why are those the first three steps before even spending in his cause, as a way of getting rid of covetousness, which seems to be the target? What do you think, Dana?
Well, let's start with the word fear. Now, I've had long discussions with Dr. Taj Hargate about and other people regarding this word fear. What do we mean by the word fear? Many people think of this idea of fear of God as like a horror story, fear of what he will do to you. I see it more as respect. I see it more as honor. So honor God. So respect God. Give to God everything that God deserves as best you can, because you can't possibly give to God all that God is worthy of. Our worship to God, our adoration for God is inspired by awe. I would use the word awe to really describe this kind of fear. So, as a
Yes, I
young
love that.
child,
Yeah.
as a 3-year-old child, I was in awe of God. And I was deeply touched by a story from the Bible of a young boy named Samuel, who in the middle of the night heard the voice of God calling him and thought it was his teacher who was calling him. And 3 times this happened until his teacher said to him, "Go back to your bed, and the next time you hear that voice, say, 'Here I am, Lord, I'm listening. Here I am, God, I'm listening.'" So I'm here. Here I am, send me. So it's
Why
about
do you think
awe.
that's the
It's
first?
responding in awe.
Why do you think that has to be the first? I love that, first of all, because I do think it's really important to fear God as God should be feared, with the respect, but at the same time, it's not a debilitating fear. I like that you kind of called it awe. Like, it's not like, I think it's a very useful tool for me, and I think it's a generally useful tool for human beings, because where in Arabic, the word for human beings is insan, which has a connotation of forgetfulness, and we forget our mortality. We think we're going to live forever. And that's why we endlessly collect things. But if we knew we're going to leave this place, it would be pointless collecting things. So that's one thing. But this fear, I think, snaps, if you call it awe, maybe that's a better word, it snaps us out of our forgetfulness, our human condition to forget why we're here and what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? It pulls us out and gives us a greater perspective. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be here forever. We've got a reason, and it's not just to collect more and more things. Do you think that's the point of this fear of God tool, I would like to call it? Or what do you think is the point of this? Because you can see there's a bunch of steps going on here, because the Quran says it's perfect. So it's not randomly ordered steps. It starts by fear of God. Then it says listen, then obey. What do you think is the usefulness of fear of God in this whole process of letting go of materialistic dependencies? Does that question confuse you?
Well, not at all confusing, but I think we've just covered it, which is when you're in awe of God, you're not busy talking, you're not busy doing anything, you're silent, and your ears will be open. Not only you can hear, but you will listen attentively, and you will begin to tune in like a radio dial. You begin to tune in to the voice of God, that inner voice, and as you then act upon that voice, you become more and more tuned in, like tuning the radio dial. Of course, this is a throwback to when radios had a dial.
Yeah.
But, you get the idea.
Yeah, I get it.
Tune
So,
in
okay, cool.
to the frequency.
And that's very interesting, because once you're tuned in, let's say, then you're listening better, I guess. And only when you listen, actually know the instructions of God, can you obey them. I mean, that's how I see it. And then and when you're obeying these instructions, maybe you're becoming a little bit listening helps you become wiser, and obeying and putting into practice makes you experience the spiritual alternative to materialism before you can actually spend in his cause. That's how I'm feeling this as I'm contemplating on it. Can you tell me your thoughts? Like, what do you okay, my question to you is, how do you see this process? Do you think there's a connection between the fear of God, listening to God, obeying God, and then finally spending in his cause, so to eventually become rid of your covetousness? Do you think there's some sort of reasoning between the ordering of these steps?
Well, I would connect fear, the awesome fear, with losing the covetousness, because the more you contemplate and become aware, expand your awareness of who God really is and how much we belong to another world beyond this one, your value system changes. What you value changes. And so being able to hear God's voice, God's guidance, leading you according to his purpose and plan for your life is just more important and more fulfilling and more joyous than any material thing. And I would say at the same time, you get a very healthy enjoyment of your material things, and you feel contented with what you have. Right now I'm living in the desert of Kuwait, and some people would think, oh, that's not very nice, but I love it. I have a garden, I'm growing flowers in the desert, and I'm surrounded with pigeons and animals, and there's horses and sheep and goats all around me.
Wow. You're not in the city then, you're in the outskirts, are you?
Right.
Oh,
We
wow.
made the decision to move out to a desert village.
Oh,
and we're really enjoying it. There's some disadvantages, but the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've got two places, but I'm in the city home. But anyway, but my background's from the village home, so I do appreciate a lot of what you're saying. And for people who might not appreciate a desert because a desert might sound boring, think about like how people love the sea. The sea is just water, expanse of water. But the reason why, and I've been in some deserts, and there's the stillness and some of the pristine nature, pristine nature uninterrupted with buildings connects you with God, because I think nature is a reflection of God. When you stick a building in the middle of it, it kind of ruins it. So I totally get that. So cool, beautiful. Okay, so, and I also want to throw in that I love that thing that you said about your connection with God allows you to appreciate the material better, because that really does make sense, because people who are solely chasing material things never really feel content, because they're always chasing more. So they never really enjoyed those material things. As soon as they get one thing, they need to get the next thing. They're constantly thirsty for more, as the Quran describes. People who disbelieve are like those chasing a mirage in the desert. Do you remember that verse of the Quran? I think we might have discussed that. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. It's a really beautiful insight that, in fact, you do enjoy material things more because you're content and you value and you see that every tiny thing is a blessing from God, and you're grateful for it. And then when you're grateful, you enjoy it more. And the other thing I think is really important is that an awareness of God, this fear of God or awe of God, is also another reason why it's an important step. Is that it gives you conviction for what you're doing. I find, like, I'm trying to help people in all sorts of things, like getting married and things like that. People have zero conviction because they can't, like, a believer in God trusts God, and then they're able to do so much. But if you don't have a belief in God, you're always uncertain about the future. So you don't get married because you say, oh, that's going to be expensive. And you don't have children because you say, oh, that's going to be expensive. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. And they keep planning and planning and planning. But believers in God, they say God's the provider, and they let go and they trust in God. So I suppose my question to you is, do you think a belief in God gives you a lot of conviction that enables you to move forward in spiritual things and not depend on material things, like gives you the conviction that you don't need all this material stuff? Like the opposite is that when you don't believe in God, you feel like you need to keep collecting more and more things because you never feel safe. What do you think about that?
Well, that first line that you're highlighting is, in my experience, an iterative process in which all leads to listening, listening leads to obeying, and all the collateral benefits that come after that go through a cycle after cycle where you become more and more attuned to God's guidance because you obey. You know, He says, do this, you obey. Then His voice becomes louder, and then you can obey in bigger things. And then your confidence, or as you say, conviction, grows and grows. And you can look back over your life and you can remember all the times you heard God's voice, you obeyed on bigger and bigger things each time. And then when He gives you something really big to do, of course, He's challenging you and letting you stretch the boundaries to something new and wonderful. And you will, because your faith is being challenged so that it can grow, you feel some doubt, and you turn to God and you say, well, you know, God did it in the past, and God carried me through in the past, and all I have to do is obey God to the very best of my ability and let God do all the rest and provide the resources and provide the outcomes. And so your conviction, as you say, or your confidence that God will fulfill His word each and every time grows and grows and grows. So again, your life in God becomes bigger and bigger compared to your materialism life.
Beautiful. And other sort of side effects, I know that you I feel the same way, that you focus on listening to God, and then as you call it, collateral, or I call it side effects, are lots of other things, lots of positive things. And one of the positive things, I think, is when you give to other people, you start building connections with other people, and you have better relationships with other people. People like other people, you know, people like you, not that you're asking to be liked, but people like you because you're so generous to everybody. without expecting anything back, because God told you to do that. So, and I think that's a really important or really powerful thing that enhances your happiness, because we're social beings. We need connection. What do you think about that? That side effect of listening to God and from being generous, that connects you basically to other human beings.
Certainly, the people who benefit from your generosity and who benefit from your investment in them will be usually very appreciative. Not always, but usually they are very appreciative, and they give you a lot of love and
Oh, sound's gone
tell you,
again.
oh, you know,
No,
well,
sound.
why?
I don't know. Did he pull something?
Why?
Maybe
No,
something
didn't do anything.
delicately.
Nothing on my side.
Your picture is fine, so it's definitely just your sound.
Nothing
Something
happening
delicate.
here. Nothing is happening here.
Don't know. Maybe. I mean, I think you can hear me, right?
Yes,
Yeah, you can hear me.
I can hear you.
I don't know. Maybe leave and come back in again. I don't know. That often fixes things somehow magically. Oh, no. I think there were two of you. I didn't realize. Okay, there we go. She'll be back in a second, hopefully. I think so. But anyway, so there are a lot of different ideas that I've been throwing in. Do check out the document I've put in the description. Besides these, let me see if there's anything that we haven't mentioned yet. So there is a lot of psychological evidence, if I haven't said that already. For example, there was this, does it say not device not connected? What's it saying? They will need, okay, I think it's cool.
Okay, is it fixed?
Hi, Dana. Dana,
You
yeah,
hear
can
me?
you hear me? Oh,
Yes,
no,
I
I
hear
still
you.
can't hear you after all that
Still,
effort.
still.
I think something got slightly detached or something, maybe.
No, that's not it.
What could it be? What could it be? Something, is there a wire connection if you twist it? I don't know. Or is it wireless? Okay, no. I will keep talking and you keep fiddling, and as soon as I hear you, cool. Okay, so what are my other thoughts that we might not have covered? So basically, for people who, maybe I didn't emphasize this enough, but there's a lot of studies. There's actually even a great TED talk for people who don't know. TED talks is like specialists in different areas. They psychologists or technical people, whatever. So there's a great TED talk, How to Buy Happiness. And basically it talks about they've done experiments. You buy a coffee for somebody else, you actually find you become happier. And think about coffee. You don't actually need more and more coffee. Coffee is a luxury good. So if you can afford coffee, that means you're probably not dying. And so just buying more coffee for yourself just won't make you happier. But if you buy coffee for somebody else, you build a connection. They say, what, you bought this for me? Like you build bridges of love, and simple acts like that do connect people. People don't need really expensive things. Even simple things can build connection. So that's one thing. Yeah, and then at the end of the verse, we've got, it is day, let me scroll that properly. I can't, there we go. Here we go. All right. So if you get rid of your need to keep collecting things endlessly until you die, then you have become successful. You have freed yourself from covetousness. And why would that be freedom? That's essentially allowing you to realize how rich you are already. Like, you get loads of air for free. Imagine you didn't have an endless supply of air. You would be paying a lot of money for air. You get a lot of things, but we don't realize how rich we are. So that's another idea. Poor Dana. I appreciate everything you said already, though. Really good input. So whatever happens, it's already been great. Oh, cool. So something else is happening here. Something's loading. Device is not connecting, but it's not letting me add it yet. Something. They will need to connect their mic cam before you can add them to the stream. Oh, you have to press some sort of button, Dana. Looks like you're trying to add another device. Oh, you're not? Okay. Okay. So
Can you hear me now?
another idea. So I'm going to jump through. That was kind of my initial thoughts on this verse of the Quran, but I'm going to whiz through 3 quick ideas on how money can be better used to create more happiness. So one short-term idea is that people's idea of success is wrong. So I kind of already said this. So people's idea of success is usually to have more than other people. That's a really destructive idea. Think about if you think of a successful pop artist or something, they have the most money, the most this, whatever, more than other people. That's what means the most, right? That's actually quite a destructive way to think about success, because you're essentially going to say, I want more than my friends. I'm going to compete against my friend. Everybody's a competitor. That's a really horrible way to live your life, and it doesn't make you happy. So the opposite of that is giving to people. You actually build connections. And then there's a very different one about interest. Interest actually devalues money over time. It just causes inflation, because, well, I won't get into too much, but also is very destructive, because it's the only way wars can be funded. And so this verse of the Quran is, I think it's a bit shortened here, but because it does talk about I think war or something, I can't remember now, but yes. So interest-based economic systems are really bad for you, really bad for poor people, because it robs the poor to give to the rich and all sorts of stuff. So that's a kind of like let's say a long-term society way of improving the use of capitalism. Capitalism isn't not bad by itself, but it can become very poisonous if you have systems like interest or the old term usury, which has been forbidden in Islam and Judaism, and since Christianity came from Judaism, is the way I describe it. Dana might disagree. Then, yeah, Christianity originally, well, there was a time when Christians didn't use usury as well, and they only allowed the Jews in Europe to do that. So that's really destructive. And if you actually, there were times when you didn't have interest-based system, and then money was, let's say, or value was plentiful, and people had a lot more. Right now, there's huge imbalances because of this interest-based system. That's another one. And then finally, this beautiful way of immediately feeling better about what you have. So our habit is always to look at people who have more, and then we feel bad about our position. A really easy way of fixing that is, as the Prophet Muhammad said, look at those who are below you and do not look at those who are above you in terms of material wealth. But that is more likely to hold you back from belittling the blessings of God. So you are insulting. You are belittling all the things you already have. Oh, let me put this on. Does that make? Can you try something, Dana? Because can you
Can
say
you hear
something?
me?
No.
Yeah, trying to
Oh,
talk. Still nothing?
I don't know if I remove that, would that make any difference? I don't know. Dana, don't worry. I really appreciate everything you've already said. I'm sure you brought tons of value. But also, I hope could you hear that thing about the few things I said about people don't value what they have, but when they look at people who've got less than them, they immediately realize how lucky they are, and that's a useful tool. I mean, did you hear it? Can you hear me, by the way? Oh, you can hear me. At least I'm hoping. I mean, you've already brought tons of value to the conversation. Hopefully, lots of people heard, because we're kind of at the end of the session here, and I'm hoping also that, you know, if I'm repeating something that maybe you haven't heard, but Dana has heard a lot of things, so I'll be surprised if she hasn't. But anyway, cool, Dana. Oh, it's a shame that I couldn't just say thank you and do it properly at the end. I'm just going to press a few more buttons to see if we get lucky. Can I hear you? I really think something's just, I don't know, got loose, or because it was perfect and then couldn't hear you for a minute. But Dana is the technical expert, so she's saying no, I'm totally wrong. Something else going. Diana, we're gonna finish here because I always try to keep to the hour. But thank you so much, Dana. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Maybe next time we'll get you for the whole hour. But I appreciate that you made a huge effort. And of course, it's kind of a little bit annoying, but actually for me, it's not annoying. I just value people making an effort. That's enough for me. So thank you, Dana. I really appreciate coming from the one of my, my favorite Quran class. So thank you very much, Dana from Q8. Have a great day. Bye. I'll end the stream now.